And that right there is what happened in NASCAR. Hopefully we'll be forgiven. Oh my God, right here. Yes, there it is. There's the bridge, good find. Quiet is dumb. Quiet will get you nowhere. So that garage is where it all started for us. He drive his race car right here, Schrader would. I straightened a couple quick changes out there. Outside where that red truck's at. That's our time stamp. Boom, that's it right there. Listen, there's a sense of misery that is required to be successful. There's a lot of lazy racers nowadays. So lazy it makes, I was 21 years old and I was a Winston Cup crew chief. That was it. You'll be all right, youngin'. But we would be so hungry that we could only afford to eat one time a day. That's the way we grew up. Now I'm getting mad because it really me off thinking that people don't know these stories.
Out here in the homeland of Kenny Wallace, and we're going to see some hometown history stuff, past and present, I guess, as we're starting right here. What do you got going on in here? Mitchell and Logan, it's good to meet you all. Well, we're ready to go to Florida to race at Volusia for 6 straight nights. Easy on that right front geometry. I'm just kidding you. We are getting ready to go for a ride, and I'm going to show you the Wallace stomping grounds. You ready to roll? Oh, we're ready.
Come on, let's go. This is Arnold, Missouri. Us Wallaces grew up on these back roads. You know, no different than them old dirt racers down in West Virginia and Kentucky. You know, when people see where you live, they're like, damn, you know, everybody's from somewhere, right? I mean, I saw your Mark Martin stuff, Batesville, Arkansas. So these roads are treacherous, and you have to defend against them. Schrader said, Herman, why'd you put your fence so far back from the center line of the road? I said, Schrader, the reason I got that fence so far back is you got to give the drunks some runoff room. Sometimes I get asked, well, why did I build right here? And it was because this is literally a mile from where we grew up. And you can see these roads, they don't even, you can hardly, if anything happens, you're dead in the water. You know, there's a lot of traffic on this Sunday. These are the roads we grew up on. You know, all of us Wallaces, Rusty Wallace and Mike Wallace. You know, I really like our area because you know, we're in the country right now, but we can go right into the Arnold, Missouri. You know, and they got it all there.
So you learn how to drive by not dying.
We learned, this is no lie, we used to run the heck out of these back roads. Actually, that was nice and normal right there. We're getting ready to go on this road. And you know, it's like okay, I gotta tell you something. See this little gully right here?
Yeah.
Down there, okay, that used to be the road. If you kind of look to the left of me, you'll see where there looked like to be a road. Okay, so right here, it snowed. And Rusty Wallace came sliding down here. I'm sliding down here and Rusty flipped his truck in that creek with his girlfriend in there at the time. Rusty says, oh my God, we flipped the truck because we slid in the snow down in a creek, and he got out and he goes, oh my God, my girlfriend's down there. So anyway, this is it. This is it's built up now. This is not the original road. The original road's right there. I watched this trailer court be built when I was a kid. And I ran that creek as a kid. That creek right there was so much fun. I used to come over Sunday morning and buy eggs from that place right there. I'd buy eggs on Sunday morning. So this is where we grew up. We're gonna pull in there and see if they say anything to us.
Do you know these people?
Yeah, but they just might not know who I am.
Oh.
So anyway, this is really crazy. You see that garage right there?
Yeah.
So that garage is where it all started for us. That is basically I guess you could call it a 2-car garage, but in reality, it's a 1-car garage. So that's where Rusty started. Mike. The house was half that size. That section you see to the left, my dad traded a race car to the Gittemeyer family, Len Gittemeyer, and they added that addition on. We used to back our race cars up and let the ramps down and unload the race cars there. But you know, it's sad to say, because you know, you really wished people knew what you went through. A lot of people just skip to the good part. You know, we grew up extremely with nothing, and and we did it, you know. So, but it's kind of like any musical group, right? If you go toward Gary, Indiana, and see where the Jackson 5 grew up, you'd be like, okay, I won't ask any more questions, right?
Yeah,
but
cool. That's why we do this, to
remind people,
fill in that background.
People are more angry nowadays than they've ever been. They're just thinking people grew up, you know, they've been shot in the ass with diamonds, you know. That's what I used on the Dale Jr. podcast. People don't realize most of us, you know, grew up with nothing. So do you want to go to where it all started?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so that's going to be about 20 minutes away, and we're going to Valley Park, Missouri. It's a very commercialized town, and I'll show you where not just our shops were, but Ken Schraders' shop. Moorland. We're taking to the back roads of Morocco. When I was a kid, you know, I guess I grew up on Saturday Night Live. When Saturday Night Live was funny, it's no fun anymore. They just got it every once in a while. It's funny, but Saturday Night Live used to be so funny. You just laughed all the time. So I always called these the back roads of Morocco. You know, they used to make a die-hard Sears battery. If you want to run the back roads of Morocco, you need this battery. You know, all these commercials, I loved them.
It's funny how the most random things stick with you over time like that.
I'm big into psychology. I think a lot of people are catching on to me now. If you follow me on social media, I love psychology because I better understand people. You know, I like that piece of land right there. I might see if that's for sale. But, you know, I think that's why me and Mark Martin and Dale Jr. are such good friends, because it's like, why are people so ornery? What is the deal? You know, when we started racing, we were just racing. And you just did. Now people want to know why, how come, what? It's like, simmer down. Boy, I tell you what, when I was a kid, this road right here, I loved my bicycle. And I'd go right down in that road, and there was an older man. He sold bicycle parts. And we never bought bicycles. We were like race car mechanics. So I needed a chain. Gave the guy like 50 cents, got a used chain, and I was back running, man. But you're right, I travel these roads, and there's so many things that, you know, trigger my brain or anybody's brain. So we're getting ready to come up this road here. It's called Highway 141, and this is there's a new 141 and an old 141. So we're gonna get on old. Now this road we're gonna make a left on here. This is the road. This is the road that we took our race cars on. So we would do this right here back in the 70s. So imagine we had a blue Suburban with just a trailer, and we'd go down this exact road right here. Hasn't changed at all. And this would be our real road. So it's Sunday. We're headed to Lake Hill Speedway, Valley Park, Missouri. My dad's racing, Rusty Wallace and Mike Wallace. They're crew members. Well, one time, I think they were flat towing my Uncle Gary's car. Even Uncle Gary raced back then, and
he was the vacuum cleaner guy, wasn't he?
He owned it. He owned the business. My Uncle Gary is the matriarch now of the family, because my dad died, and my Uncle Gary was the one that made us be somebody. He was very smart, owned a very small janitorial business. But anyway, his car came loose right in this area and went off into the weeds, and they hardly made it to the racetrack. We're like, what happened? Race cars all beat up. They were flat towing it. You know, back then you'd flat tow your race cars. You'd flat tow. You know, there'd be no trailer.
Do you always answer the phone like a talk radio host?
Oh yeah, like this. Watch this. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air. Jerry, you there, buddy? I think he hung up on me. I make a lot of YouTube videos. So a lot of my stuff is a lot about psychology and, you know, how do you stay strong? And everybody comments on it. Because no matter what they say, no matter how weird you think you are, people think the same way. And, you know, there was a old saying, why was Dale Earnhardt Sr. so tough? Because he was strong-minded, you know. To be a great race car driver, you can't let people get you, because they want to chokehold you out. They don't want you better than them, and they're mad if you do good. So a lot of people, I mean a lot, text me on the side. They're afraid to like or comment on my videos because they don't want people to know the way they are, because they're afraid. They don't want to be judged, and I don't care.
That's why I think this kind of stuff is important, and why we seek out to do it, because like you said, people think you're just born somewhere already. It doesn't connect the dots in people's head that, you know, they could do something too, because they don't know the stories behind people who get somewhere, because it's not talked about. If you open that door for somebody, it can change their perception on everything around them. And like, how are you supposed to believe that you can do something if you don't know how someone else did it?
You get it. You get it 100%. I truly believe that God put me on earth. And, you know, listen, I'm not real religious. I'm a Lutheran, and I do pray. But I do believe God put me on this earth to make people feel better about themselves. People are so angry that other people make it, and there's got to, you know, the people, when I say the people, you know what I mean. I don't have names, but a majority of the people in life are upset that somebody has done something that they want to do, and they just think that, well, by gosh, they got there because their dad had money. Well, listen, there are stories out there like that, but that's not the majority. People think the way they want to think. My brother Rusty said it perfect. Rusty's very strong, and he has a brilliant mind. And Rusty said, Herm, it's sad to say, but you have to remind people, because they remember what they want to. So people get this vision, and that's what they want to think. In reality, you know, you look at somebody like a Dale Earnhardt Jr., he worked at the dealership. You know, his dad wouldn't give him any money. Kelly Earnhardt will tell you, you know, Kelly Earnhardt, Dale Jr., they were roughed up. Now, Dale Jr. cannot help who he is. It's not like you can put him back in his mama, right? He's born, so here he is. And people won't break down life like this. I see life like that. So, okay, Dale Jr.'s born, here he is. So it's not fair to say, well, he was born Dale Jr.'s boy. It's like, okay, and? You know, it's no different than being, you know, Michael Andretti, Mario Andretti's, you know, son. It's no different than, you know, Peyton Manning or Eli Manning or any famous athlete. You're born. Now it's up to you to do with your life as you see fit. You know, so
you play the hand you're dealt.
You play the hand you're dealt. I can promise you my hand on a Bible about the Wallaces. Now, my mom don't like to hear this, but we grew up poor. And when I mean poor, I mean we grew up in Rolla, Missouri, and woke up one morning, there was no heat because somebody forgot to pay the bill. And I mean, it was freezing, and I will never forget that as long as I live. But what's aggravating is people, they want to skip over that. They don't want to hear that because they have this idea of why you are successful in life. Well, he's successful because, you know, and they just fill in.
And they use that to justify to themselves why they're not.
Right, and I have been put on this earth to make people feel better about themselves. You know, let them know that they can make it. And listen, it's no secret that I'm at best a D+, C- student. I'm street smart, and that's why I made it. I don't care about, you know, being Elon Musk or creating the damn internet. That's not me. Yeah. I'm a street person. I worked my ass off. You know, I picked up soda bottles and taped them all over my bicycle and pedaled my way up to the 7-Eleven and turned them in for 5 cents a piece. And, you know, I worked extremely hard to get where I'm at. And now, did I have help along the way? Hell, everybody gets help along the way. You know everybody. You know, everybody in racing will tell you that person. Everybody's got to have somebody. But to get help, you got to show those people that you want it. I hope that I can, you know, through social media, make people feel better about themselves. Let them know that you can do it. You just got to try. People give up so damn easy. They want people to, some of these racers want people to walk into their home and give them money. I'm like, it don't work that way, you know? And it's disappointing to me. But, you know, I'm 58 now, and I've always had this fantasy of getting off social media, and I'm resolute. Resolute means final. I'm done. So, end of 2023, I will be getting off. I will be getting off all social media, and I'll probably keep up my YouTube channel because it's fun. But I find myself working too hard. You know, the reason I got all my sponsors and the reason my career has been extended is because of social media. People sponsor my dirt car for my social media. They don't care about that race car whatsoever. They want my social media, you know. Actually, Jegs, they love me to death, and they're honest. Herman, we want your social media. I've always enjoyed AM debate. When I was a kid, I'd listen to AM radio because I enjoyed listening to people talk. You know, you wouldn't watch all this stuff if it was something exactly like you. You want to see different things, you know.
Learn stuff, think about things in a new way.
I mean, it's why we Google everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know how to rebuild a Burt transmission, you Google build Burt transmission. You know, you're looking for a trailer. You get on the internet, you find out where there's a trailer for sale, and you drive halfway across the damn United States and pick it up.
Yep.
So social media is good.
Whenever people address you seriously, do they call you Herm, or is that how you just preface someone telling you something serious? Is Herm like the whom to who, like the proper version to address you when the tone is serious? What's the distinction between someone calling you Herm and Kenny?
It's kind of whatever people think. There's really not a rule. The way I got that nickname, Herman the German, there was a 6'3" German man named Bob Miller. Bob was the promoter of this racetrack I'm going to show you. And Bob was a good race car driver, and he also owned some used car lots. Well, I was in trouble all the time. And so people would talk bad about my dad. They hated us because he won all the time. And I would throw snow cones at people, and they'd get over the announcer stand. Russ Wallace, your boy Kenny Wallace is in a fight in the grandstands. Please come get him. Now this was real. Now this is back in the late 60s, early 70s. So Bob called me old Herman the German because Bob himself was a German. And there was a medieval warrior, Herman the German, and his wife Hilda. And you know, I guess I reminded him of Herman the German. So it became Herman the German, and then it became Herman. And then when I made it to NASCAR, Earnhardt, a lot of those people down there called me the Herminator. And I love that. So right over there, my brother Mike had a shop over there. It's crazy this was not here. But what I am happy to show you is that everything is still pretty much intact except the racetrack. You know, so for example, sometimes I'd watch some replays of me racing, and whether it's Dave Moody on Sirius XM radio or some of the replays. So I'm friends with the media, right? We're like personal friends, like, you know, we know each other. And I'll go back every great once in a while in my life, and they'll go, oh, Herman the German leading this race here at Richmond Speedway. And I get a kick out of it, you know, because it's personal. You know, they don't call me Kenny Wallace. They know me so well that I do like it when the media or people call me Herman, because that means they're comfortable around me. You know, hey, Herm. And I do recognize that a lot of people on social media, when they try to be close to me and be my friend, they'll go, hey, Herm. Herm means I'm your friend. Kenny Wallace means they're respectful, but they don't know about me yet. You know, they're trying to figure me out. That Herman thing took on a life of its own. I didn't come up with it. My mom, Judy, she calls me Ken. You know, my real name is Kenneth Lee Wallace. You know, you go back to Rusty. Now, Mike's name is Michael Samuel Wallace, but Rusty's interesting because Rusty's name is Russell William Wallace Jr. His real name is Russell or Russ. Well, they grew up calling him, Mom said they call him Russie, R-U-S-S-Y, Russie, when he was a little boy, and it somehow derived into Rusty. Rusty is not even Rusty's real name. It's just a name. It's funny.
I didn't know that.
We're gonna go across the Merrimack River. Now, this used to be a 2-lane bridge right here. Very, very junky bridge when we raced here. This is the Merrimack River right here. So that Merrimack River leads into the Mississippi River. And this whole town used to flood. Now you see all these gates. We call them gates, just big mounds. You see there the gates?
Yeah.
That used to never be here. So in 1982, we built a NASCAR race car. It was sponsored by Ramada Inn. So picture this. Rusty builds this NASCAR race car, but he goes to the Snowball Derby to race. And Rusty's down at the Snowball Derby. Well, for some reason, me and my brother Mike couldn't go to the Snowball Derby. It was weird. So anyway, it floods. And we come down here to lift Rusty's brand new NASCAR race car up in the air as high as we could. People were putting their items on this railroad crossing, hoping it wouldn't flood. But anyway, Rusty's original, very first NASCAR Cup car got flooded. Got flooded in this big flood. I'm going to take you to where it all started, and I'm excited to do this because it will remind everybody. I don't think we can go in. It's Sunday. Listen, Rusty wanted to be somebody, and he was very clear. He knew what he wanted to do. You know, I always say the biggest epidemic in the world is men or girls that are 32 years old. You're 32 years old, and you still don't know what the hell you want to do with your life. We were very clear. We knew what we wanted to do. We were going to be race car drivers because my dad was a race car driver. So that was a gift to us to know what we were going to do. Here you got chemical companies, ball field, and people's homes. That's why I say this is a very controversial town. It's very, right over there are people's homes. They live there. But then here's chemical companies and, you know, big, you know, we're going to make a big circle here, but you'll get it. See there how it says Duck In Market right there?
Yeah.
Listen to this story. My brother Rusty Wallace had no money, and somehow we figured out how to race. Now, there's times, you know, we write bad checks, but we knew when we wrote the check that it wasn't going to be good, but we knew if they'd hold that check, let us go race, we'll come back, we'll get some money in the bank, then that check will clear. So we would leave this little tiny race shop down that road, and we would drive the truck and trailer. It was a bread truck. Now this is ASA and this is USAC. We're racing AJ Foyt, all right? We'd come up here and we'd put our blinkers on right there with the truck and the, here's Doug Schoenfeld. Did you get your coated headers? I did. Thank you, Doug. So we'd park that truck and trailer right there, and we had this big old checkbook, and Rusty'd write this check, and he'd go in there, and his name was Kenny Adams. Kenny's daughter, Carla, ended up marrying my brother Mike. We'd go in there, and they would cash that check, okay? But they knew better than to deposit it because they knew it would be no good. That's the way we grew up. Now, I'm getting mad because it really pisses me off thinking that people don't know these stories. That man in there, Kenny Adams, is probably one of the reasons Rusty made it. Stories like that all day long. Right there in that little place. And Rusty might have wrote a check for $200-300. That was big. And we'd get that cash, and we'd head up to the Milwaukee Mile, pulling that picket. We'd win that USAC race against AJ Foyt, Joe Ruttman, Bate Arnell, we'd outrun those guys, but we'd still be broke. No money, zero, living at home with mom and dad. When Rusty was beating the best in the world, we were still living at home. But right there, let that be a lesson to all you dumbasses that are such smart asses that don't understand life. I'm angry right now. Detour, road closed. But we know all these roads. But we're gonna go around, we're just gonna go that way, because if I go that way, so the first shop is the shop that we all started. Here's what's amazing about this town now. That side of Valley Park is all commercial. Now look here, these are homes. Now this is an old town. It's a very old town. Now, I wanna see if I can find the Adams house, because one day in the shop, I was tacking with a welder. I was like, and I messed up horribly. What an idiot I was. I burned my eyes so bad that Rusty couldn't take me back to the house, because our original house, 20 minutes over that way. So Rusty took me to the Adams house, and I laid on the couch all day. My eyes hurt so bad, I had a headache. And I think I see the house up here.
So that guy in there cashing the checks he knew wouldn't clear yet, how did you guys gain his belief to help you like that?
Because that racetrack is right here. We're going to show you that in a minute. Because Kenny Adams owned that little market, and the racetrack is right over here. He knew us. He knew, if you're nice and you're a successful person yourself, you can see when people are trying. He could see that we was trying. Right there at that house. I believe that's the Adams house, the Adams family. So I went into that couch, and I said, back then I think I never washed my hands. We were, nowadays if you're a smart ass, you say, oh, he's a grease monkey. You're right. We didn't care about, we didn't have time to, we didn't start shaving until we met Roger Penske. But we got to remember, we met Roger Penske out of this town right here.
Really?
Yeah, this was where we ended up making it and meeting Roger Penske. I always tell my kids, go and do, get out. If you're shy, you never make it. These kids nowadays piss me off because they think being quiet's cool. That's the new cool thing. Look, quiet is dumb. Quiet will get you nowhere. People are afraid to talk, so they just shut down. And they see another racer that don't talk, so they just get quiet. If you're gonna make it like I did, like I'm not a good race car driver, but I made it because of that mouth. I can sell.
You sell yourself.
Sell myself. Believe in yourself also. You have to believe in yourself. Now they're fixing Valley Park up. So if you look here now, this is all new. Got sidewalks. Hell, none of this stuff was here, but the old houses are still here. Now think about these houses. They've been flooded to the max. Those houses have probably been flooded 20 times. And look, there's an old, see how they fixing them up? Mm-hmm. The river's right over there. I'm gonna show you that. So there's some great stories right here. I'm getting ready to show you, I'm gonna tell you a lot about this area right here. This is where it all started for us Wallaces. We're gonna get out of the truck actually.
This is really cool.
So, right over there, we had a shop. I'm gonna show it to you in a minute. This building is very significant to me. This used to be called Charlie's Cafe. And we had no money back then, but we could afford a cheeseburger and a french fry. And this is a real story. It's not fake, it's not exaggerated. But we would be so hungry that we could only afford to eat one time a day. And this is true. So Rusty, listen, I was a good mechanic at 9 years old. So it'd be Rusty Wallace, Paul Andrews, who became the great Alan Quickie's crew chief. It'd be Rusty Wallace, Paul Andrews, myself. We'd be starving. And Rusty would say, Herman, run across to Charlie's and get us cheeseburger and french fry. And Rusty was very impatient. You didn't get to choose. Rusty did not like it when people would say, oh, I want pickles or no pickles or man. No, you got what you got and you ate it. So Hell, Rusty, Paul Handers used to say, I'll take a Big Mac with no sesame seed sauce. Rusty said, no, everybody, you take off what you want to take off. But anyway, right here, Charlie's Cafe. I'd go in there and I'd say 3 cheeseburgers, 3 fries, and 3 Cokes. Back then, we didn't care about sugar. You just swallowed sugar. Nowadays, I don't do none of that. But the reason this is so significant is because this is the food that we were able to eat back then. And, you know, I know people that are watching this are going, come on, Wallace, y'all are able to eat. You don't understand. We fended for ourselves, even my mom and stuff. We made pot pies when we got home, you know, I mean, you know, we'd put it in the oven because we didn't have microwaves, but, you know, 3 cheeseburgers, 3 fries, you know, 3 Cokes, that's in my mindscape right now. So, but the greatest thing about this is every time I'd leave, it was Charlie cooking in the back and old Val Jean. Val Jean, she was a crude older lady, but I loved her to death because I'm crude. I'm very crude. And I'd walk out and she'd say, Herman. I'd say, yeah, Val Jean. She'd say, don't let your meatloaf.
So that's where that came from.
That's where that came from, right here, right there. Don't let your meatloaf just come from old Val Jean, loved her to death. Let's walk across the street now. So there's a lot of stories right here. This is where it all, this is everything. I mean, there's no more except right here. Now, we're going to take you some better garages, but this is St. Louis Avenue. Now, as you can see, they've upgraded. They got these big gates now. I mean, that's where, I mean, this place used to flood mercifully. I mean, the water would be over that building. Not halfway, but the water would be over the building.
Wow.
Common. But now they spent millions and millions of dollars, and so that's a big gate down there. Now, you see this whole garage here? This big garage here was Calicut crankshaft grinding. This man would take crankshafts, and he had this machine that welded up the journals, and then he would grind them back down. He would save your old crank and make it work. And that was Danny Calicut. We call him Old Man Calicut. Man, he was hardened. He was tough as nails. So we rented from Mr. Calicut. Now I want to show you something. Now you got to concept this, okay? I want you to stay right here.
Okay, right here.
Right here.
Right here.
That's it right there. We won all those USAC races against AJ Foyt. We won all those ASA races right there. And that's all the bigger it is. There's no, look here. So this was the office. This is where Rusty wrote the checks, right? The wall is right here. The wall is right here. It goes back. And the shop ends right there. Right here, you can see the seam. If you look up right there, you see where the building ends. They just added this on some 30 years ago. So that's it. So when I see these pictures of you all with these big, massive shops, and please, you know, now listen, the truck, we'd back the bread, we'd unhook the trailer and park the trailer over there or over here. So this building was not here. They added this on. Like I said, you can see at the roof. Okay, so this is where the bread truck backed up to. In my job, I had a lot of jobs, but I organized the truck and loaded it up. So this is it. I got a jacket in there. Go get it.
It's okay.
No, go get it. I got a really warm jacket.
Thank you.
It's a Harley jacket. You're skinny like me. Us skinny people get cold quick. So follow me. This is why this is so significant, because we were winning big races. That's why when I see people, they don't understand money. You know, them dirt super late model races, those guys are paying 50, 60 grand for a motor, and I'm like, y'all are crazy. There's, you know, to this day, that's why I have my money, because I won't spend it. You see them houses there?
Yeah.
There was some crazy old lady when this place flooded. When people get older, they get crazy. So when this place flooded, Some old lady jumped out of her house and went to the top of her roof, and she said, "I'm not leaving. This is my house." I'm like, "Ma'am, your house is flooded. You got to get out." It went all the way up, and they had to get her with a helicopter. So this alley is very important, because this is where it really shows you the size of the garage. Now think about it. I know I keep repeating this. We're winning USAC races against the greatest. That's why Rusty Wallace is so good. We're running and winning USAC races against AJ Foyt. We're outrunning them all right here. Now, this is it right here.
When was the last time you stood here and looked at this stuff like this?
I was here last week trying to, I tutor people. So I got this kid working for me, Austin Harris. And you have to educate people so they know. So when I tell people, better listen to me, because I know what I'm talking about. See, I'm the real deal. I can back up anything I say. And actually, I get cocky about it. I'm like, come on, let's go. You want me to weld your car up? You want me to plumb it for you? Or do you want me to wire it? Which one? Do you want me to set your chassis up or drive it? And I do that because that's the only way you get people. Listen. Because they think you got something, and if they had it, they'd get you. Nobody gets me. You see that hole right up there?
Yeah.
So we stuck, that hole's from us. We stuck an air conditioner in there. And that's because we didn't have any money back then, and that shop had heat. That was it. You'll be all right, youngin'. We're just chilling. So anyway, this is it right here. That we had an old lathe right there, and Rusty could work that lathe, and we'd whittle some parts out. But listen, this is it. There's the door. There's the building. I hope it helps you all, and makes you want to know that you can make it. It don't matter where you. I know people in Florida that work on their race cars out under a tree right now to this day, because you do get a lot of rain in Florida. But when I see these big old shops, see, I worked for my shop. I worked my ass off for my shop. So I'm allowed to have what I have because I worked for it. And I had a lot of people help me along the way. Let me tell you what, I'm the only one talk like this. You get a lot of my good friends loose, they'll tell you the same thing I do. That's why I got so many friends. Because they say, "Herman, we like it that you say it the way it really is." But they're afraid. They're afraid to talk the way I am. But they're all just like me. I'm just the only one with the mouth. I represent all them racers that I know are racers. Well, so this was the USAC days. That was the USAC days. Now we're going to go to the ASA days. So we ran USAC in 79, 80. The next garage I'm going to take you to is where Rusty won the 1982 ASA championship against Dick Trickle, all the big boys, Bob Seneca, Mike Eddy. So we're going to go to that shop.
Did your shop flood a lot too?
Yes, this is the shop that flooded real bad on us. All right. So let's get out. You can stay right there. Come on. This is hold on, let me shut this off. So this was that next step in our life. We needed a little bit more room. We needed a little bit more room. So right there, 632 Marshall Street. Now, there's a lot of things significant about that shop. Number one, that's where Rusty won the 1982 ASA championship out of right there. So the other thing that's significant about that shop is that's where Rusty's first NASCAR Cup car got built. And like I said earlier, Rusty and Paul Andrews and all them, they went down to the Snowball Derby. Me and Mike, my brother Mike, we could not make it to the Snowball Derby, so we had this massive flood. Now right here, so you see this town? Here's Western Ready Mix, right? Look how commercialized this is. Now, the Merrimack River's right there, right on the back side here, like 2 football fields away. That water if you go back through history, you'll see Rusty flipped violently off of turn 2 at Daytona in the Ramada Inn car. Rusty was racing Richard Petty and Rick Wilson. Richard Petty in the STP car and Rick Wilson in the Kodak car. Rusty's racing them. And I think it was Rick Wilson or Petty, they hit Rusty. And Rusty flipped horribly. That car was right there.
Wow.
Now, what's crazy, now on a fun story, when the floods came, we came down here, and me and Mike, we got all these bricks from around here. And we lifted that car this high in the air, and it still wasn't enough. The flood took the whole garage. Well, we came back, you know, they made it into town from the Snowball Derby, because where we live, it didn't flood. And Rusty said, I was going down the front straightaway through the tribal Daytona, and water was coming out of the popper little bitty holes. He's like, right there. This is the garage. This is where Rusty left here. And in 1984, me and Rusty went down to NASCAR at the same time. So in other words, we went down 40. Rusty went to Cliff Stewart in the Gatorade car, went to drive it in 1984. And I made a right. I went down 77 South, and I became the crew chief on the Levi Garrett car with driver Joe Ruttman. So that's our time stamp. Boom, that's it right there. Now, you gotta listen to this closely. That was 1984. Now the story switches over to me. I go down, I become a crew chief in the Cup Series, 1984. I moved back here a year later. Now I'm gonna show you, there's a lot in between, but I'm gonna show you the shop that I ended up in. Joe Ruttman saw me in Jefferson, Georgia. Joe remembered me from the USAC days, because this little kid's doing grown-up stuff. I grew up in the shop, so Joe Ruttman asked if I would come be a crew member on his Cup car. So I go down, and at the time, you know, Jake Elder's the crew chief. But, you know, his nickname was Suitcase Jake. He'd always leave. He never stayed in any team. He'd get aggravated and mad. So Jake left 2 months, and now I'm the crew chief in the Cup Series at like 19 years old. Okay, I was 21 years old. I was 21 years old, and I was a Winston Cup crew chief. But when you're in it, you're in it. You know, at the end of 1984, I moved back because the reason I moved back, because I wanted to be a race car driver. And the only way I could do that was start all over. And I knew you couldn't see, Charlotte, North Carolina is weird. You don't go down there to start a career. If you go to Charlotte, North Carolina, you better already have a career. I see that mistake made by a lot of people. They move down there thinking they can start their career. No, your career is made all through the Midwest of the United States. Once you get to Charlotte, that means you've made it. So I had to come back to the Midwest and start my career. And so 1986, I started running ASA. Listen, there's stories in between, but I got a book about that. And it's called Inside Herman's World. You can look up coastal181.com. And my book is there, Inside Herman's World. But you know, we never made a big deal out of it. You know, you don't get real good distribution. It's a racing book. But, you know, it was made a long time ago. I put a lot of pictures in it so the rednecks would read it. Because reading to them is looking at pictures. I'm horrible. All right. Now, let's get out right over there. I want to show you something first, so come here. You see that hill right there? That's the river. That's the river. And the first shop I showed you is right over there.
Yeah.
Okay. You see that building right there with the sign on it? It says 643?
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't pay rent. My Uncle Gary and my dad and my brother Mike went in on a business deal, and they owned that whole building. And they all felt sorry for me because I was living on nothing. And they let me, now when I started racing, I started off in my brother Mike's shop, and he just gave me a corner. 1986 ASA. I won the Rookie of the Year out of my brother Mike's, just a little corner. And then I went to another shop that my brother Mike got for me, and that was Dan Altoff's shop, and they stole everything from me. Somebody broke into my building, stole everything I had. Everything I had was, I think I had a drill press and a welder and a saw. But anyway, they knew they weren't going to stop me from going. Right there, I straightened a couple quick changes out there, outside where that red truck's at. It was that shop right there where I got a phone call from my brother Rusty. November of 1988. November of 1988. Now remember, in 84, Rusty went to North Carolina. November of 88, Rusty's made it already. He's won his first cup race already at Bristol. I picked up the phone in there. Ring, in there, in that building. I picked the phone up, it's Rusty. Herman, you want to run the Busch Grand National Series? And no, this is true. I said, what is that? I never paid attention to it because I thought ASA, Mike Eddy, Bob Senegar, I thought that was NASCAR, so to speak, in my mind. I'm like, if you ain't running ASA, you ain't nobody. They had a party for me right down the street. This building's gone now. It was like a, I don't know, Elks Lodge or whatever you call those things. And they had a going away party because they knew this time I was gone. And so November of 1988, I was running ASA and Artco, and I left that building right there for good. And there was a green chalkboard in there, and I wrote, remember this garage forever, because the last of the Valley Park racers. Years later, I left that place just like that. They were so shocked about it that somebody saved it, and they took pictures of it, and it's in my shop right now. Not the original, but all of a sudden Ken Schraders walks into my shop. He goes, look what I got for you. So the last time I left that building, I wrote, remember this race shop. I, Kenny Wallace, am the last of the real racers, because I was the last one. And listen, there's a lot of other racers like Nick Hoffman. I want to give a shout out to Nick Hoffman. I'm a fan of Nick. I've done things for him because Nick is like us. There are not very many people like us. Now there's people that, grab a helmet bag and they go drive other people's cars. And those are great race car drivers. But there's not many people that, see, we built our own race cars. Those shops I showed you, we put the tubing on the floor, and we snapped it, and we started building our race cars from the ground up there. We built our trailers. What the hell's a jig? We didn't have a jig. We bought a front clip from Stock Car Products out in California. The clip came in, and we made the whole car, and then we put the clip on. That's why the old guys, and that's why we call these people are weak nowadays.
Do you think those aspects and values could ever be brought back?
No, those days are gone, and I got no problem with that. Everybody wants to be somebody, right? Everybody wants to be somebody. I don't give a shit. I don't need people to respect me. I'm just trying to help them for them. But there's a lot of racers nowadays, I mean a lot, that just are lazy as, they're lazy. There's a lot of lazy racers nowadays. So lazy it makes, they're lazy, horrible. So, and they just drive these cars that their dads provide for them. I'm talking TQ midgets at the Chili Bowl, midgets. I'm talking everything. There's too much of kids not working on their own race cars. I don't care about the money. Put the money over here. There's too much of that going on nowadays. Kids driving, but that's the dad's fault too. Dads want to live through their kids now. So like, man, I wished I could race, but I'm too old. So you know what I'm gonna do now? I'm going to have a race car and let my kid drive it. Well, the kid ends up being and the dad don't have the wherewithal to roughing him up enough. At least it's just truth.
And the kid can't create a fan base because he's boring.
And that That right there is what happened in NASCAR. And I actually didn't even realize I was saying it until I got done saying it. That's what happened in NASCAR, because the working person could see it going on. It's like, hey, where'd you come from? Well, my dad. And the story was like, what? You mean you didn't build your own race car? You didn't work in a used car dealership? You know, you mean tell me you got out of high school and your dad had you a race car ready to go? That's fine. You don't understand. That's fine. But it ain't fine. Listen, there's a sense of misery that is required to be successful. And when these kids aren't miserable, they just don't, you know, I mark them off. Now, I'm trying to help some kids, but they ain't never going to make it because their mom and dad give them too much shit. I don't hold ill will towards these people. They're just not on our team. You're gonna be on our team. You know, if you're gonna be on our team, you know, if you want to be on Kyle Larson, one of us, because the mom made all the videos. You know, he got it. He's the racer. I'm talking about the ones with the hands in their pocket and hair's all, you know, they're disappointing. They won't talk. You know, that new era kid is really bad. So now we're going over to Lake Hill Speedway. And Lake Hill Speedway is right around the corner here. But we gotta go around the railroad tracks. Actually, last year they started filling in it with the dirt. It was a very big deal for me. So this kind of defines Valley Park, the railroad tracks. And this is actually what shut this racetrack down. So we're going across these set of railroad tracks. Now look, you see them railroad tracks to the right?
Yeah.
Now see the railroad tracks on the hill?
Mm-hmm.
These are two separate railroad tracks. There's land in between these. And it ended up where the racetrack got locked in between railroad tracks. And it became a safety deal where you couldn't get people in. You'll see, here we go, this is big right here. This building on the right, this was Kenny Schrader's dad, Bill Schrader. This was his shop. All this right here. All this. Okay, that building right there.
The gray one?
No, this one right here.
Okay.
All of it, right here. See Bill's Automotive right there?
Yeah.
That's Schrader's brother. So Kenny Schrader, see that right there? See that? He would take his race car, okay, start it up, and follow me. He would start his race car up right there, and he'd come out right here. Look, he'd drive his race car right here, Schrader would, and pull into the racetrack right here. We'll see if it's locked. It is. Okay, so we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna jump this gate. Remember, there's Schrader's shop right there. He'd start his race car up, come down here and pull in here. Now this was the demise of this racetrack. This was the only way in, the only way out to Lake Hill Speedway in Valley Park, Missouri. This is it. So later on, the fire department deemed this racetrack unsafe because this isn't the only thing. Remember those railroad tracks I told you? So we go through a tunnel to get in the racetrack and out of the racetrack. Hopefully we'll be forgiven.
We will.
Yeah.
This is the only track. There's no other one. This is the track that made Rusty Wallace, Mike Wallace, and Kenny Schrader. This was the track. In other words, those three were not famous for any other track. This was the track that took them to NASCAR. So this was a little bit of parking right here. And all the haulers would come right in here. Now you see those apartments over there?
Yeah.
That's where all the parking was. But then there was a big bridge. The fans would park over there, and this creek's right here, and they would come across this bridge, and we'll find the bridge. They would come across this bridge. Now listen, Mark Martin has come here watching Rusty race. It was funny because when Mark came, Rusty spun the leader out. Rusty spun the leader out because Rusty had so much pressure on him because Mark was there. So on Friday night, we would run Springfield, Missouri, Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. Saturday night, we'd go to Fort Smith, Arkansas, which is, it's Pensacola, Oklahoma. They call it Tri-State now, it's dirt. So Friday night, we'd run Springfield, Missouri. Saturday, we'd run Tri-State, Pensacola, Oklahoma, Fort Smith, Arkansas. The border's right there. And then we'd come back here on Sundays. Okay, right here. So the bridge was somewhere in here. Right in here, and it went across, and there's a lot of land over there, and that's where all the parking was. Now you could park here too, but you had to get here early. Now the race cars, and once again, I'm telling you why this track ended. That's another reason this racetrack ended. That was the only way in, the only way out, right there. The police, the Valley Park Police Department, they used to have to, you know, watch longer because this would be a great seat. These kids would be on both sides of train tracks watching the races. This racetrack probably closed when I was 20 something. So 20, 30, 40, 50. I mean, this track's been shut down 40 years, but that's how old we are. You gotta remember, Kenny Schrader's like 67 now. Rusty's 64. But so this was the demise of this track. Now in our day, we didn't think nothing of it. But you'd come in here with your big truck and trailers. We're talking Larry Phillips, all the big boys. Fred Teedy, these were big names back in the day. And right here, you would immediately turn right. That was the pit road right here, right there. That was pit road. You take your truck, you make a swing, and you go right. Now the racetrack's down there. Right here. Now see here, see this railroad track here?
Uh-huh.
Now see, there's a railroad track over there. And right over here was a big pond. And they're using this as fill now. Rusty Wallace and Kenny Schrader, when you're born in the 50s, you're not sentimental like me. Rusty and Schrader are two peas in a pod. They're almost the same. They don't get sentimental to this stuff because they think these days were hard. Me, I thought they were awesome. This is where Rusty Wallace and Kenny Schrader went at it. I mean, they were not friends, they became friends. They raced the hell out of each other right here.
Did you ever race here?
I got a picture of me making 5 laps in my brother Mike's car. I was too young. You know when your mom goes, that's my music, turn it up. You know, that's my day. So people time-stamp their life. That's my music. You know, whether it's Dua Lipa, I like, you know, or whether, you know, it's Hank Jr. But I mean, this is my timestamp right here. So it's very emotional because it's gone. It's, you know, it's kind of funny. It's not, but like when you lose Schrader said it perfect one time. He says, when your mom and dad die, you realize you're an orphan. Very powerful. But where we grew up, it's gone. You gotta be a tough ass, you gotta keep on going, but this is where it all started. But you gotta remember, Rusty would say, "Fuck past, I'm worried about the future." So they have put so much dirt in here right now, it's ridiculous. The racetrack is 30 feet down. Dale Earnhardt Jr. couldn't even do a, what's that thing they got called?
Lost Speedways.
He couldn't do Lost Speedways here because there ain't nothing left. I mean, when they got rid of it, they got, and now listen, here's the deal. This ain't but 2 years old. I mean, they just got rid of it. And boy, oh boy, are they bringing in the dirt. So anyway, the demise of Lake Hill Speedway in Valley Park, Missouri was one thing. In and out. Couldn't get in and out. There's the only way in and out right there. And now all of a sudden we're smarter and safer and nobody can talk bad about anybody. People might die. Well, we raced here for 100 years and nobody died. But in and out right there. There's a lot of mean people nowadays. You know, a lot of people don't care about nothing except themselves. You know, you got to think, it's like people just like, will it benefit me? So that's just the way life is, though. I've had 2 lives. I've had maybe 3 or 4 lives. So when I was a kid, this is where I grew up. And then I moved to North Carolina. And I have a whole nother life down there. I lived 27 years there. Life is amazing, right? So all those stories about me, a lot of them are time-stamped, my new word of the year. I had a timestamp here, and then North Carolina was the legendary go-kart track. Back in the 20s, 1920s, Kenny Schrader had this documented, and I read it. It's so fascinating. See where that building is right there?
Yeah.
That was an incredible swimming pool. This was first famous for a big, huge swimming pool. And that's, you know, the train would come out, they'd all come down the steps, and they all go swimming.
That's someone else's timestamp.
Somebody else's timestamp. The reason I've been getting so emotional lately is I said, you know, I've been breaking out in cold sweats lately. I even woke up and told my wife, I said, you mean you can believe these damn... for some reason, like, I dream a lot, but these are not dreams. I wake up and all of a sudden I just start going, I'm 58, 68, 78. So I'm pretty sure, you know, I mean, hopefully I live to be 100, but I'm pretty sure I only got 20 years left to live. When you realize that, you can start getting real happy. So I'm gonna start spending all my damn money and do some traveling. The newest thing lately is if you understand the concept that, you know, we're born to die, which we all know that, but we don't break it down enough. If you truly understand that you're going to die, but you got to think about it every day when you wake up. You got to go, you know, is this my last day on earth? You become a different person. A lot of us, you know, Kobe Bryant, I have the quote in my phone. Somebody asked Kobe Bryant, you know, before he died, this question, and he said, the biggest mistake we all make is we think we have time. You know, when people go, calm down, you've got time. No, everything should be with urgency. Now, I'm not talking about running around like a nut, but you should do everything in life with urgency. Meaning that, you know, you don't have time. You know, you think you have time, but you don't. So you know, that's life.
There's the bridge. The stub's still there.
There, is that it? There it is.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Oh my God, right here. Yes, there it is. There's the bridge. Good find. There it is. Look at that. That's the bridge. Yeah, everything fell in right here.
Wow.
But you know, I'm learning a lot just being with you. You see the demise of this racetrack, not just through the railroad tracks, but look at this. I mean, that's, you know, all the park, everything to get here was a deal. You know, had to go through a tunnel, landlocked with railroad tracks. Hell, you got to walk across a bridge to park.
Yeah. Looks like there was another bridge there. Is that like an original bridge?
So that actually, you know, I'm so jacked up right now, but that was the bridge I went over as a kid. This is new. Wow. So you're right, that's the bridge we went over. And this was the bridge that the fire department made them build. That one there, that's the one I came in. Right. Hey, this was the new one. That's the one we came across all the time.
That's just, oh, and just wasn't safe enough, or?
Yeah, nothing was ever safe enough.
We'll be all right.
Yeah. Here. You look like an athlete, so.
She falls down a lot.
What's that?
She falls down a lot.
My wife used to fall down all the time too. So much to where I used to say when she was your age, I'd say, Kim, we're going down steps. Hold on to the handrail. And she'd go, okay.
Well, that was pretty profound. There's a lot of useful information in all that for anybody who's listening through the lens of trying to learn things to help them in the present day. I know for me, there were way more stops and places in that than I knew about or thought about. Because we didn't really talk about what we were going to do before we were doing it, but I think this is going to be really helpful to people for perspective and knowledge, or just something to remember whenever, you know, when someone's sitting there thinking, man, this sucks, I want to stop, I don't like this, you know, just think about that and the things you talked about, and all those other people went through things like that. I know for me, that way of thinking has kept me going when I didn't want to move my feet anymore. So putting this stuff like this out there is really important to me, and we're glad you were able to do that.
Well, you know, you were therapy for me too. You know, sometimes we don't, you know, Harry Gant said something years ago. He goes, time to stop and smell the roses. You stop and think about that philosophy. You know, you got all these beautiful flowers, you just keep walking by them. And Harry's philosophy was, okay, let's stop, bend down, do these flowers smell, you know. So some of this stuff sounds so corny, but a lot of great athletes, you know, they have success by sports therapy, and I wish that stuff was around then. But now that I'm older, you look back on it all and you're like, oh my God, we worked so hard. You know, we just worked so hard, and there was never a plan, you know. Never at one time did we say, we're going NASCAR. But yeah, so thank you for coming. I appreciate it. We're all a big fan of you, and this was therapy for me too.
Where can people watch your YouTube stuff at? What's it called?
So I'm new to YouTube. I'm not as popular as you. You've done a fantastic job, but it's Kenny Wallace. Just go on YouTube, and had a buddy of mine say, we need to do a YouTube channel. So we said, we'll give it a 6-month trial. We're going to do it for about 6 months, and we'll see how it's going. But yeah, I'm all over social media. Just go to, you know, Kenny Wallace YouTube and check me out all over social media. I'm on every damn app. I'm not on TikTok because it's just too much. Thank you all for following along.
I got one more question that I just thought of.
Yeah.
If you say sometimes you got to stop and smell the roses,
yeah,
how do you keep your head buried in those early years and smell the roses while you're still walking?
Well, you can't when you're young. When you're young, you don't come up for air. When I was young, I never came up for air, ever. I'm just saying now at 58 years old, you know, my career is, I don't like using negativity. My career is not over. So in other words, sometimes I'm a little hard on myself and I go, well, my career's over. I would just say my career's come to an end. You know, I'm still Kenny Wallace. So I would say for all the kids out there that want to accomplish what people that they admire. So if you admire somebody, understand that they went through all that. There was no shortcuts. That, you know, they just didn't all of a sudden show up. I mean, you look at Kyle Larson or Tony Stewart, their stories are well documented. I mean, their dads, their family, you know, they traveled in the back of an old truck, and, you know, they earned everything where they're at, you know, and, you know, you just got to stay digging. You got to stay digging. You can smell the roses later on. But like I said, man, cheeseburger and french fries back in our day, that was a big deal.
I think that's a good answer. Well, if you made it this far, make sure you're subscribed here too, because if you watch this entire video, it's going to be pretty long, and you're not subscribed, you should be. That's something you got to keep in mind too. You got to tell people to subscribe because they'll forget to.
Yeah, you're
you gotta
right.
Remind them.
I've learned that. Charlie Marlowe, I do all the content. I do most of the videos. I do 99% of them, and I send it to him. And I'm learning all the YouTube stuff. Subscribe, please.
All right. Well, I guess now our trailer saga continues. We gotta
Your
fix
journey
the lace on that thing. Yeah.
I like the Mark Martin shirt.
Wore it on purpose.
I love it.
Cool shirt. Thanks, Mark.
That's actually a real RCR show car hauler.
It looks like it.
It survived somehow. Found like old pictures of it with the matching dually with the big wing on the roof and all that.